Welcome back to the Raw Prospect Podcast. My name is Nixon. That is Michael Wein to my left. And today's episode, we are continuing something that we do every single year, and that is the NFL Sour Rankings. And if you're new here, that just means we're doing power rankings, but we're doing them backwards. So we're going to talk about the bottom of the NFL today, ranking our bottom 5 teams in the NFL. And then on top of that, we'll also be going through our all rookie teams for I guess a quarter, I guess like a third into the season here, something like that. So 4 players on offense, 4 rookies on defense. So that'll be pretty fun as well. But if you're new here, if what we do here is something that you're interested in, leave a like on the video and subscribe to our channel. Our goal is to hit 100 subscribers by the time the Super Bowl comes around in February. We're a small channel, just 2 friends talking football, man. And if that sounds like something you're interested in, joining the ride for, being a day one for, then do it, man. We do this every week. We post consistently, so we have a lot of fun around here. So just saying, subscribe, make it happen. But anyways, Michael, how you doing, my man?
It's Thursday, October 16th, the year of our Lord 2025, and we're now entering in about 15 minutes, week 7 of the NFL season, where my team, the Pittsburgh Steelers, are playing a division rival, the Cincinnati Bengals, on the road. And they're calling this the Icy Hot Bowl because it's 2 quarterbacks over 40 years of age. Rodgers is 40. Flacco's 41 or vice versa. Their combined age is 81 years old. But the point is, we're about 15 minutes from kickoff, and so I don't know if I've ever recorded a podcast during a Steelers game. So if you fast forward to about the 20-minute mark of this podcast and you see me react to what's going on, I'm recording in a different area of my house so I can have a TV in the distance to see what's going on in the game. That's what's going on. I'm a Steelers fan, and the Steelers are playing, so there might be some reactions. Hopefully, the
It'll be good things. Hopefully.
And here's the thing: they should win this game, but I feel like it's a trap game. And if Mike Tomlin's history on the road on Thursday night says anything, the Bengals will win this game. So we'll see what happens. But it is the Icy Hot Bowl. It is kicking off here in about 15 minutes. But we've got a good show to get to. I couldn't pass it doing this podcast. So we're going to be doing our all-rookie team nominations through week 6. So about a third of the season, as Emmy stated, first. And then on the back half, we'll get into our sour rankings, the bottom 5 teams in the league. We'll talk about their coaches, the status of their coaches, and potential offseason needs and all that kind of stuff, and their future as a franchise. So let's go ahead and get into it. Emmy, why don't you go ahead and explain the structure of how we did these all-rookie teams?
Yeah, so it's pretty simple. We're just picking 4 players on offense, 4 players on defense. Any position is no position is off limits. However, you're encouraged to do different positions for all the different teams. So, or different positions. I mean, so try not to do 2 linebackers or 2 corners or whatever the case is. But if you do, it's not really a big deal. So, not really a whole ton of criteria there. Just who we thought is performing the best out of the rookies so far this season. And I'll start first. Offense, I thought was pretty simple. Outside of maybe the 4th guy, which I think there's going to be a conversation there, but the first 3 are pretty set in stone, in my opinion. And they're probably going to be the same for both of us. I've got Tyler Warren, Cam Skattebo, and Emeka Egbuka as my top 3 guys on the offensive side of the ball. Who did you have?
Emeka Egbuka, Tyler Warren, and Cam Skattebo.
Okay.
Written down on this sheet of paper. And my 4th goes to an offensive lineman there are some good offensive linemen in this class. You think
Yep.
about Will Campbell, who's performing well for the New England Patriots. You think about Kelvin Banks, our beloved Kelvin Banks from the University of Texas, playing for the Saints. But I went with Gray Zabel, a guard for the Seattle Seahawks from North Dakota State, as my fourth rookie nomination on offense. Who did you go with?
I went with Ashton Genty. I thought, with how he's performed these last few weeks, I mean, it started kind of rough, but I think he's represented himself well. Not really his team, but he's done his part in that Raiders. If you call it an offense, it's a bit of a mess right now, but he's done his part, and then I think he's looked really good these last few weeks, despite the poor run blocking. So. Yeah, I think there's an argument for both. I think with Gray Zabel, it's more so like I don't think he's. I mean, he's been consistent. I think he's probably been the most consistent out of the offensive linemen in this class so far. Kelvin Banks is probably right there next to him. You can probably go back and forth between them two, but I went with Ashton Genty.
Yeah, Gray Zabel. Reason I went with him, he leads all NFL guards in run block win rate, 83.3%. He has 0 sacks allowed through 6 games, no penalties called on him, and he has a 90.8% pass block win rate. He's been very consistent. There are some good things that you see on tape. He's been a plug-and-play guy. I mean, this is a guy who played both tackle positions. He played guard. He played kind of everywhere in college, and he's paid off in terms of that Seattle Seahawks offensive line. He's one of the best guards in the league, period. But definitely one of the best among the rookies. I see where you're coming from for sure with Genty. He's really come on the last couple weeks. If the Raiders just give him the fucking ball, sometimes that's the issue.
Yeah.
He's run hard. He's had some explosive plays. He'd probably be 5th or 6th on my list, but I decided to give some love to an offensive lineman. Let's talk about Skattebo, the other back here, because he's been awesome. And I feel like he's really changed in some ways the identity. He's given the Giants, him and Jackson Dart together, have given the Giants an injection of youth and given the Giants a real exciting identity. Just those two players alone on offense the past couple weeks, especially the performance they put on last week. And that's really what put Skattebo over the top for me, was that performance last week on Thursday Night Football against the Eagles defense. Just amazing. He leads all rookies in runs for first downs this year. That's pretty important. I mean, it's pretty important on offense to pick up first downs, because if you're not picking up first downs, you can't score touchdowns. He's got 21 runs for first downs. That's 5th best in the NFL, and it's most amongst rookies. And then you look at his counting stats. I mean, the rushing yards don't absolutely blow you away, but he's been a workhorse for them. He's got 82 carries, he's got 20 catches, and he's got 5 total touchdowns, which is slightly more than Krusky Merritt for the Commanders, who is also in consideration for one of my nominations. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think for me with Skattebo, man, it's just the way he runs. I like that. Like the stats don't blow you away, like you said, but he's just always falling forward, and he's just a fucking psycho. There's no other way I can think to putting that. Excuse my language to all the kids out there that might be, I don't know, viewing this podcast somehow, but. Oh my gosh, man. Like that dude he's so freaking fun to watch. I don't know how long he's gonna be able to play in the NFL before his body breaks down, but my God, am I gonna enjoy it? Like even though he's on the Giants, like he's already one of my favorite players in the league. He's just I mean, he's electric.
Physical runner, doesn't go down at first contact. He's been absolutely kind of a game changer for them in some ways, because he's able to he doesn't get tackled behind the line of scrimmage often or at all because he's just so strong, low center of gravity, falls forward, as you said, and he wears on defenses
Yeah.
over the course of a game. He's been awesome. Of course, Jackson Dart could be in consideration for this later on in the season, but he doesn't have really the sample size yet to justify it. But he did play well last week, so he's another rookie. The Giants got a couple rookies that are really coming on here lately. One we might talk about on defense later. Egbuka is pretty self-explanatory. Do you have anything you want to say specifically on him?
Yeah, I mean, I think, it's pretty simple. I mean, everything that we're gonna say has probably already been said a million times at this point. But I mean, dude, like he's, I think the conversation that I find interesting is like, the way he was described by the draft community is not at all what we're seeing on the field in the NFL. Like the way he was described was as this kind of, like I guess crafty slot type of receiver that's going to win over the middle of the field, those tough catches. Not like a burner speed wise, isn't going to blow you away with his separation, but is just going to catch everything. But that hasn't really, like, he's done those things, but he's beating receiver, or sorry, I can't talk. Beating corners down the field, like stacking them and breaking away from them with his speed. Like, I mean, that's not exactly what I was expecting. But I mean, my goodness, I mean, is it a steal for the Bucks to take him at all the way at like the 20th pick or whatever it was?
Yep. He's not only been one of the best rookies, period, but he's seventh in the NFL, period. Not amongst rookies, but just period in receiving yards per game. 78.2 receiving yards per game. And he's fourth in the NFL in yards per catch. So when he gets the ball, he's creating explosive plays. He's not the fastest guy in the world, but he's super smart and super toolsy. 27 catches, almost 500 yards, and 5 touchdowns. Now, unfortunately for him, he's dealing with a hamstring injury. He's probably going to be out here a couple games. But like if he were to play the full season, you can extrapolate those numbers and get to some pretty crazy rookie numbers that I'm not sure we see too often. I mean, if you just extrapolate it over the like we're 1/3 into the season over 17 games. I mean, you're looking at a 1,200-yard receiver with 10 plus touchdowns and 65, 70 catches. That's pretty insane.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
Now, the quarterback he has helps. He's pretty lucky he got drafted by the Buccaneers because Baker Mayfield is probably in most people's minds the leader for MVP at this particular moment.
Yeah.
But it's also pretty amazing what he's been able to do as kind of their number one because they've had so many injuries at that position alone. I mean,
And you can argue, like, even when Mike Evans was in there, he was targeted more.
Yep. He's just an absolute baller. Picked one pick ahead of the Pittsburgh Steelers this last year. And he was one of my top targets for the Steelers, but that's another story for another day. I do like who the Steelers ended up getting though. Tyler Warren, what are your thoughts on him?
Yeah, I have him in 2 fantasy leagues. So I think very positively of this guy. Yeah, jokes aside. Yeah, this is a perfect example of a team taking a tight end in the first round, but actually having a plan in place to get him the ball. I mean, the Colts are being extremely creative, putting him in the backfield, getting him matched up on linebackers, like giving him handoffs and shit, just screens, all of it. Like they're just getting him the football, and he's making defenses pay. So it's just, I mean, it's a steal where they got him with the 15th pick because I think most people knew that he was probably a top 5 player in this draft class, but it just happened to be like the tight end position isn't really valued in that way. So I think Tyler Warren, he's going to be probably up there with if we're looking past kind of the Kelsey and Kittle era of tight ends, he's probably going to be right up there with like McBride and a couple other guys as like the best tight ends in football.
Yeah, the versatility for me is unbelievable. They've lined him up at a traditional tight end. They've lined him up as an H-back. They've given him handoffs. They've lined him up out wide. I mean, they've gotten this guy the ball in pretty much every way possible that you can possibly think of. Credit to Shane Steichen. But production is there. Again, we're only through 6 games, so none of these numbers are going to absolutely blow you away. But 29 catches, 370 yards, 2 receiving touchdowns, and a rushing touchdown for a guy his size is beyond impressive. It doesn't really need to be explained, and he's really opened up other things for the Colts offense. We won't go too much more in depth on that, but, I mean, he's been awesome. So anything else on offense? The game just kicked off, so forgive me if I'm looking at the TV.
Yeah, all good.
Yeah, I did else on offense?
Yeah, I did have one honorable mention.
Yep.
In hindsight, I probably would have picked this guy over Ashton Genty as my 4th guy, but Armand Membu has been really good for the Jets. I wanted to shout him out because he's been in a tough spot blocking for Justin Fields, probably the guy that holds the ball the longest out of all the quarterbacks in the NFL. And he's, still like rarely giving up pressures, rarely giving up sacks. And he's just been rock solid.
Yep. Are you ready to move to defense?
Yeah, let's do it. Who'd you have on defense?
Another missed tackle by the Bengals. Okay. Okay, so my defensive selections. Paper pop this one. I've got Will Johnson, corner for the Arizona Cardinals. He does meet my minimum number of games played, which is 4, although I do break that rule here in a minute. But it's my list, so I'll break my own rules if I want to. Abdul Carter for the Giants. I've got Jahad Campbell, a linebacker for the Eagles. And then my final selection is Derek Harmon, defensive tackle for the Steelers. Kind of a biased pick. He's only played 3 games, but I'll explain it once you reveal yours. What were your selections?
Yeah. I had Abdul Carter as well. But that's actually the only pick where we aligned actually.
Really?
It was probably a much tougher evaluation on defense because there's been so many guys that have been really good, but I don't think there's been like guys that have been like downright dominant or anything like that. But for me, I had Andrew Makuba, safety out of the University of Texas. And then I had Carson Schwessinger, the linebacker out of UCLA, playing for the Cleveland Browns. He's the captain of that defense, calling the defense. Kind of has spearheaded one of the best defenses in the NFL. So I wanted to give him his credit there. And then the 4th guy is someone that I was high on in the draft. It's Xavier Watts out of Notre Dame for the Atlanta Falcons, who are also a very good defense. I think by some statistics, the number 1 defense in football, which we'll see if that holds up. But he's been really good this year. He has a couple picks. He's made his impact for sure for that Falcons team.
What a fucking throw. Okay. Yeah, I don't blame you for any of those picks. I actually considered Makuba. He'd probably be 5th or 6th. I know about Schlesinger. My team just played Cleveland. They've got a good defense. He's racking up the tackles. Like, he's on pace to break some records for rookies in terms of just tackles and production. So I get you there, absolutely. For me, what it came down to is Will Johnson, the corner for the Cardinals. He's been hurt, and that was the concern with him in the draft process, right? Is coming off some injuries, didn't play a whole lot his last year at Michigan. But But in 4 games that he's played, he's got 5 pass breakups. That's 5th in the league, and he missed 2 games. He's only allowing 3.4 yards per target, which is the lowest in the NFL amongst corners with minimum 50 coverage snaps. So he's been good, but not only is he playing well for that Cardinals defense, he's playing discipline. No penalties, 0 committed penalties so far, which is tough at the corner position in the league. I see your point with Watts, but when I've watched Will Johnson, he's been good when he's been healthy. And then Campbell, it's kind of apples and oranges. You could go Schlesinger, you could go Campbell, you could go both if you wanted to. But he's second on that team in tackles. He's got 40 tackles so far this year. He's got a forced fumble. He's got 2 pass deflections. He's got an interception. And he's created 7 pressures on 38 pass rushing snaps. Now, the interesting thing I think we could talk about with him is Zadarius Smith just retired, or he decided to retire, and they have some injuries at the edge rusher position. He's been playing as an off-ball linebacker, but I've been reading some stuff, Eagles media, you know how it is. And a lot of Eagles fans and a lot of the Eagles media are calling for him to play more edge because when he's played at edge, he's been disruptive. He's been a good player. Of course, you could probably nitpick here and there with any of these guys. But those are the reasons I went with those guys. But I see both sides of the equation. Like Schlesinger's been amazing. Here's Rodgers looking to throw. End zone, incomplete. Okay. Harmon. Why did I choose Harmon? Well, he's only played 3 games. He missed. Tonight will be his 4th game that he's played. Pittsburgh had a bye week, so that kind of hurts him there. If they didn't have the bye week, he would have played 4. But amazingly, no rookie in the league, according to what I looked up, has more sacks than Derek Harmon so far. He's got 2 sacks. That's not a lot, but it's the most by any rookie. So that kind of gave him some points there. He's got 7 combined tackles. He's got a tackle for loss, and he's been disruptive in pass rushing situations, which is what I really like. He's got 4 quarterback hits. Rodgers is scrambling around, finding end zone, touchdown, Johnny Smith, touchdown Steelers. That Bengals defense is fucking Swiss cheese. Holy shit. I didn't they don't have Trey Hendrickson tonight, which makes it.
Oh God, I didn't know that.
Sorry for my language, but yeah, those were kind of the explanations for my selections.
Yeah, no, I that definitely makes sense. I think with Jihad Campbell, he definitely deserves to be on this list. And for me, it was just I didn't want to choose 2 Eagles or 2 linebackers personally. So just to kind of switch it up, I kind of went with something different. And then honestly, in hindsight, I probably should have went with Will Johnson over Xavier Watts. I probably would have changed that. But I mean, I think it's there's no really wrong answers here. There's a lot of really good defensive rookies this year. But yeah, I think this was a good first segment. But anything else you want to add before we move on to sour rankings?
Outside of the quarterbacks, this is a year where we don't have a quarterback in a segment like this. Kind of been disappointing outside of. I mean, I understand the situation that Cam Ward's dealing with in Tennessee, and we'll get to that here in a second, probably. The quarterback you would say that's really come on here as of late is Jackson Dart, but he's only started 2 games. So we need more of a sample size there. And then like the J.J. McCarthy thing, that hasn't really worked out. He's played 8 quarters of football and since has been hurt. And then the other rookies, are there any other rookie quarterbacks doing much right now?
No. I mean, we would have expected Tyler Shuck to play by now, but Rattler's been so solid that he hasn't even had a shot.
Saints have been competent, and that can carry us into sour rankings. These are our bottom 5 teams in the league. So, Emmy, I think we should do it how we just did this segment, which is I reveal my rankings, you reveal your rankings, and then we discuss where we differ, where we're different, and we can go into like the discussion on each team. Does that sound good to you?
Yeah, sounds good.
All right. I'll go first. Why not? So 32, the last ranked team in the NFL for me is the New York Jets. Surprise, surprise.
No.
31 for me was the Tennessee Titans. 30 for me was the Cleveland Browns. 29, can't count backwards. 29 for me is the Dolphins, and then 28 for me is the Saints. So I go Jets, Titans, Browns, Dolphins, Saints.
Okay.
That's bottom to least bottom, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. For me, I had Jets, Titans, so same there, and then I switched the Dolphins and the Browns. So I went Dolphins at 30, Browns at 29, Saints 28, and then Raiders 27.
I like it.
Yeah, so there's a few things that we're going to discuss here. So one is, will they keep their coach for one of these teams? We don't have to answer that. The Titans already fired their coach.
Right.
And then two, like, what has gone wrong? Like, what are their team needs moving forward? And then three is just like what is like the team's outlook like moving forward, just in the big picture. So starting off with the Jets, I guess we'll start with the shittiest of the shit. But yeah, so coming off probably the most ugly display of passing offense we've seen in the NFL in a long time. Where are you at with the Jets? And do you think they're going to fire their coach in year one of Aaron Glenn?
That's the toughest question here, right? Because we know they're awful. They've had a couple competent quarters through 6 games. But aside from that, it's not been good. And when you have negative 10 net passing yards in a game, that really explains the situation in and of itself, as there is a sack for Keanu Benton. The Steelers might win this game by 30 the way that they're playing to start this. That would be great. I don't think you can fire Aaron Glenn unless this gets historically bad. And there's a possibility with how bad this team is performing, and there's a lot of blame to go around, right? But if they were to go like 1-16 or 0-17, I think you consider it because it's been that bad, right? Or it would get that bad. Last week was a disaster. Like, there's no other way around it. The clock management was bad. It looks like things are moving too fast for in-game situations. Things are moving too fast for Aaron Glenn right now. He's learning on the job, which isn't a great thing. I say the Jets give him more time. I would probably give him another year. But what I don't understand is why Aaron Glenn in this organization probably should be more to blame more than anything. The front office hitched their wagons to Justin Fields for 2 years, $40 million, which with the way that he's played so far outside of week 1 is beyond me. Like, how they hitched their wagons to Justin Fields here. And if you're Aaron Glenn, I don't know if you can hitch your wagon to Justin Fields. I know everyone wants to talk about like his potential, but I mean, we're what, year 3 or year 4 of Justin Fields, and he still cannot read an NFL defense.
Yeah, this is year 5. Yeah,
he's still like maybe the slowest processor in the league, and he's really, at least the last couple of weeks, holding on to the ball way too long. Just the things that we've seen from him over the course of his career. Looking back on it, I thought it may have been a bargain in the offseason because he did have his moments with the Steelers in more structure, I guess you could say. but like this is just not good. It hasn't been good. So I don't know. I don't think they get rid of Aaron Glenn yet, but it all depends on like how bad it actually gets, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think
because if they win 4 games or they win 5 games and they finish the season, on the upswing, then I think he's probably safe if you see improvement over the second half of the season. But if you don't see any improvement or things get worse, for God's sakes, then you could probably consider it.
Yeah, and like here's the thing too is like this isn't a team that was looking to bottom out. They just paid a couple of their star players, Garrett Wilson and Ahmad and Sauce Gardner. So like they were looking to stay competitive. Like they weren't trying to win a Super Bowl or anything like that, but they were wanting to, stay in the wild card mix. And for them to look this bad, like this is just, I mean, it's inexcusable. And like he's not coaching to win the game, so it's just risking losing the locker room. So like I with the frustration we've seen from Garrett Wilson just on the sideline and Sauce Gardner, both of them. I could honestly see them requesting a trade, and that's the scariest part of this. So if you even think for a second that those two guys are going to get so frustrated to the point where they're going to say, "Fuck this, I want to trade," then you get rid of Aaron Glenn. Like that, I think it's simple as that.
Yeah. As far as
Yeah.
off-season needs or their team needs, what do you think are like the top 2 or 3?
This team needs a lot of everything, man. I think really it's the pass catchers is the one I look at the most. Um, and then they got to rebuild this defense, and you got to kind of look at it from the standpoint of like, I mean, you have some veterans there. You should probably trade them off, to be honest. They have let's see, what is it? Quincy Williams and Quincy. There's 2 different Quincy's on their defense. I know that for a fact. Um, Both those guys, they should probably trade them, to be honest. But they just need to get some more talented young players on their defense a little bit more and see if they can rebuild this thing, because they're, in terms of talent, their defense shouldn't be as bad as it is. So pass catchers, and then I'd probably look at the defensive line, build up the trenches a little bit more, because if you like, you can live a little bit with a bad secondary, but you can't do anything if you can't stop the run.
Yeah. They need a lot. Pass wide receivers definitely a top need. And that's always one of the stronger positions in the draft, even if some years are stronger than others. I do think they need help in their secondary and on their defensive line. Just their entire defense kind of in general. Sauce Gardner's still one of the best young corners in the league. Unfortunately, though, that doesn't mean a ton if the rest of the cornerback room isn't that great and the rest of the cornerback room struggles. Teams have really been targeting Brandon Stevens. They've really been going at Isaiah Oliver. I think they could use some young juice in that secondary along with on the defensive line. They need to attack both positions pretty hard. But I've already kind of been looking ahead to the draft and like an Avion Terrell from Clemson. There are guys at the secondary position, safety, even a Caleb Downs, just a player like that would probably help them if they're going to be picking that high to get a guy like that. I don't think you can pass that kind of talent up. So not to get into like a draft preview of sorts, but like they do need another corner, probably need a safety. You don't often see like safeties pick that high, but Caleb Downs is a different breed. I classify him more as like a football player. They need to attack defensive line for sure, and then wide receiver is absolutely a need, especially if you're going to stick with Fields for another year. You have to surround him with as much you have to build as much of an infrastructure around him as possible.
Yeah, I'll continue to pound this table. Jordan Tyson, the kid out of Arizona State. If y'all haven't seen this dude play, man,
He would be great for them.
look him up because he's a beast. I think he's going to go top 5 in the draft. He's someone that the Jets might look at. And then Makai Lemon is someone as well that if they want to trade back into the first round in like the 20s range, he's a guy at USC that's I think he's going to be really good in the league also.
Okay, Tennessee.
Yeah.
Let's talk about them. What was your thoughts on them firing Brian Callahan, who was 4-19 up until this point with the Tennessee Titans?
Yeah, I mean it was deserved, man. I mean Mike Vrabel is 4-2 this season with the Patriots in his first year with the Patriots, and Brian Callahan was 4-19 with Tennessee. So it just they showed no signs of life at all, really. Just no identity, no signs of improvement throughout a season. Like there was nothing, even there. Like they were just rudderless, for a lack of a better term. So just not a whole lot there. In a weird way, they're probably more boring to talk about than the Jets, because at least the Jets, they're like bad for like a variety of different reasons. But with the Titans, it's just like, why the hell did you keep your why the hell did you hire this coach in the first place? Like, I don't know, man.
Yeah, he was one of those hot names at the coordinator spot. It just didn't turn out well. If you look at Tennessee, they do have a need for interior offensive line. There's a case to be made they could be on the lookout for a tackle as well. J.C. Latham has struggled with injuries. Dan Moore Jr., they gave him a big contract, which I didn't really understand, given that I watched that guy for 4 years and he was never really all that great. But they needed somebody, and he has had good moments. He struggled in pass protection, though. They gave him a 4-year, $82 million contract. They need help on the offensive line. If you're going to roll with Cam Ward, you have to protect them. That's number one. And then I do think they need some help, obviously, at the skill positions, on offense. More wide receiver help would be great, whether that's in free agency or the draft. I know they just drafted Gunnar Helm, but any young inflection of talent that you can add to this offense would really help Cam Ward.
Yeah, I think an upgrade at running back would be nice also. I think Pollard and Spears are solid, but I think honestly, either of them, you feel really good about them both, in a lightning and thunder type of tandem. But the problem is they have two of the lightning and no thunder, if that makes sense. So I think they need that kind of physical thumper type of back for those short yardage situations. Think a David Montgomery type, think Cam Skattebo type. You can find one of those guys in the late rounds. So one of those guys at the running back position, I think would help this team a lot. Just keeping the chains moving, just as simple as that. I think just getting back to what made the Titans good in their best years with Ryan Tannehill. It was Derrick Henry running the football and playing good defense.
Yeah, I wonder if you're Tennessee, where you look next at head coach. Do you hire another coordinator? Do you look to the college ranks maybe and try to get a guy? I wonder where they're going to go with that. Not that we get into that discussion now, but that'll be interesting.
Yeah.
I can be convinced. Like, this was where I struggled in these rankings. You could put Miami ahead of Cleveland or Cleveland ahead of Miami. You put Cleveland one spot ahead of Miami. I had Miami one spot ahead of Cleveland. Which team do you want to start with?
Let's start with Miami. I think for Miami in particular, I think there's a bigger conversation about their culture as a team, because you could argue that all three of their most important figures in that organization are all on the hot seat. Tua, Mike McDan, Mike Mc, sorry, I keep on getting Mike McDonald and Mike McDaniel mixed up, but Mike McDaniel and then Chris Greer at GM, who's been there for an insane amount of time for the level of success he's had. So, um, yeah, I mean, Tua probably, I mean, he's probably fine, given the contract that he has. They're probably going to keep him around, but McDaniel, it feels like he's probably done after this year. Who knows if they let him play out the rest of the season? I think, with the level of scheming that he still is able to put together on a game to game basis, I think he deserves to coach out the rest of the season. Like, this team hasn't been completely uncompetitive, despite the turnover problems and the lack of run defense, the lack of physicality. Like, this team has still put out, good offensive production game after game. So, from that standpoint, I think McDaniel at least deserves to coach out the rest of the season. And then Chris Greer, I think he's, if this organization is any type of competent, like, this is the end of the line for Chris Greer for sure.
Yeah, I think it's the end of the road for McDaniel. The bottom line is, man, there's behind the scenes, it's pretty easy to tell. Like, there's a lot of dysfunction in this organization, top to bottom. Just with like the comments Tua made earlier this week. I don't know if you saw those, but like,
Yeah.
there's the fractured relationship between him and Tyreek Hill, who's no longer playing. There doesn't seem to be any continuity. They don't seem to have any fun on that team.
Yeah.
I don't really know what to think of their defense. But here's what I always say. Like, you have an offensive coach, Mike McDaniel, who, to be fair, had a good year or two for the Dolphins. Like, they did have an elite offense there for a time, even though they still haven't won a playoff game in 25 years. But, like, you're an offensive coach. You have a quarterback who is competent and on his best day is a top 15 guy in the league.
Yeah.
You have all these weapons. You have speed at running back. You have explosivity at running back. Yet your offense is bottom 5 in every single category. How can that happen as an offensive coach? And that's really where, and I feel like they're stuck because you're not, I mean, they're kind of lucky in a way that the Jets are as bad as they are in their own division. Because otherwise, they'd kind of be the laughing stock, but they're not because the Jets are kind of taking up a lot of that noise.
Yeah.
They've been more competitive than the Jets recently, which is why they're ahead of the Jets, and they have won a game. So that helps. But it was against the Jets, right? That's the game that they won.
I believe so, yeah.
So, like, I don't know. Like, you're an offensive coach and your offense isn't good. Then what do we have you here for? And it's not the personnel, because this is a lot of the same personnel when you had the great offense, right? Is still here. I just don't really understand it. But my thing with the Dolphins is if Mike McDaniel has to go, I think to get this thing right, you have to change the entire thing.
Yeah.
You're going to have to get rid of Greer too, because he's been there way too long and they've had no real success to speak of. They've had some winning seasons, but like they haven't won a playoff game in, I don't think, any of the years that he's been there. So, like, I don't really understand it.
Yeah. What is that thing that Josh Pate says? As Mima would say, like, burn it all down and throw away the key. Just tear it down to the studs. So yeah, I mean, I think the offensive line is worse. That's what I would point to. And then
Yeah,
Tua has played worse because of it. So
they haven't.
to me,
They
it's not all on McDaniel, but I still think he
no,
deserves to be fired.
but like a lot of the good offensive coaches in the league have not struggled. They don't take a long time to like put together offensive lines. Some of that
Yeah.
is not all on him, but like you see, I'm trying to think of an example. Like who's an offensive coach that's like Andy Reid. He's had to retool the Chiefs offensive line many times. And like they're not great, but like they're good enough, right?
And
Um,
even the Rams, yeah.
the Rams, Sean McVay, like a lot of these offensive coaches, they just know how to. And that's kind of been one of my criticisms with my coach, the Steelers, is like it's a defensive coach, it's a defensive culture, and they've really struggled. They've for like the past 5 years have really struggled. It's not a lack of investment. They've invested in the offensive line. Same thing with the Dolphins to a certain extent, but the coaching, it's just not there offensively. The one thing that McDaniels does have is he is a brilliant play caller, but you just can't be you can't sell yourself as this offensive wizard and have your team be one of the worst offenses statistically in football.
Yeah, there's more to offense than just being a play caller.
Yep.
So yeah, no, you hit the nail right on the head. Yeah, so I guess we'll hit team needs and then we'll move on to the Browns. I mean, team needs is pretty simple. It's just the trenches, man. I mean, the secondary is pretty ass, but you got to hit the trenches first. And honestly, um, it's probably going to get worse before it gets better for the Dolphins, unfortunately, because they are as bad as they are, yet their cap sheet is just in the absolute shitter. So yeah, it's pretty bleak for Miami right now.
Yeah, and if I had to guess, Tyreek Hill's probably played his last game as a Dolphin. Um, is he coming back this year? I wouldn't think so,
No,
right?
no, yeah, he's done. Yeah, I think he tore his ACL, MCL, and PCL.
So is he a free agent? Do you know? I don't know,
I
but
I want to say he has an option, but I'm not 100% sure.
I think he's gone. I
Yeah,
don't
he's
think
gone. Yeah,
they're. I don't think they're working that out. Him and Tua just have a fractured relationship. I don't think. I don't. They need to move on from that. I'd probably get another receiver in the draft. It wouldn't be my first priority, but or in free agency for that matter. Um, but like you have to do the meat and potatoes first. You have to build your team inside out. Um, if you can get an offensive line, this should be actually an offense that really functions. But they're going to need to do that, and then they have to solve their secondary. They traded for Minka. He's still good. He's had his moments, but that hasn't stopped them or kept them as a defense from giving up the highest passer rating to opposing offenses in the NFL.
yeah,
So, like, you have the versatility with Minka. You can move him around, and you still have him because he's on a certain. I think he's got a couple years left on his deal. Um, but like, if you're the Dolphins and you're picking in the top five, you could go offensive tackle. Although I don't know that much about the offensive tackle class, but they do need that. And then there's a bunch of good players in the secondary this year. That along with receiver, those three positions I look to as big time needs for the Dolphins. Now let's talk about Cleveland. Do you think Stefanski is on the hot seat or close to losing his job by chance? Do you
I
think they
would
keep him?
lean no. Um, but you never know because it's the Browns. But I think given the fact that this team has been pretty competitive for the most part, like I probably lean on the side of no. But I also think there is an argument to be made that like they can probably do better. I don't know really like what their identity is on offense, despite him being an offensive guy. Like they've really just been riding the coattails of the defense here for the last few years. Um, And I don't know, like you kind of question, like, is he the right guy to, like, whether that young quarterback is Dylan Gabriel or Shador Sanders or somebody they draft, like, is he the right guy to develop our young quarterback? Because we kind of saw that story with, how the Baker Mayfield saga went. So, yeah, I don't know from that standpoint. And then yeah, it's tough with the Browns because they're not talentless, but it's just on offense, they're just bad from a personnel standpoint. And just about every offensive lineman on their team is set to be a free agent or going to retire after this season. So,
Yep, they're two guards, Wyatt Teller and blanking on the other guy, but both their guards I know for a fact are free agents and probably aren't going to come back unless they pay them. The thing with the Browns that blows my mind is like they're paying 6 quarterbacks are on their payroll. Like 5 or 6 quarterbacks are on their payroll right now, and they don't really have a direction there. They think, I mean, they're trying the Dylan Gabriel thing, but they are the only offense in the league to not score 17 points in a game yet. I think I have that right. It's been pretty bad on that side of the ball, although I really think just from past years, Stefanski's really smart. I really think he's a pretty smart coach. I really do. He's taken to this team to the playoffs before. He's won coach of the year multiple times. There's my dog barking. Stevie, no. And the reason I made a face earlier, I don't know if you saw it, is because Roman Wilson made a catch. And I didn't even know that guy was still on the team because he barely even plays.
yeah.
Thank you, Roman Wilson, for showing up finally. It is a screen to Jalen Warren, makes a man miss. Okay. All right. I wouldn't fire Stefanski because hey, what did I say? I really think he's a smart guy, but the offense is really struggling. No. I kind of question the direction of this franchise from an offensive standpoint, though. Like, what do they want to be their identity? That's kind of what I want them to figure out. They need help at receiver. I would say that much. I mean, Jerry Judy's been pretty productive for them, but they need help on offensive line, receiver. If they're going to play one of these two quarterbacks, Gabriel or Sanders, they have to find an identity. And maybe that identity is doing what helped you when you made the playoffs, which is build an effective run game because you have the defense.
Yeah, and you have the running back too. Judkins is a beast.
Like the thing with Stefanski where he kind of defers from some of these other coaches we've talked about, like Mike McDaniel, is at least he's got one side of the ball working.
Yeah.
And at least he's made some good coordinator hires. They have Jim Schwartz as their defensive coordinator. He's been there a couple of years. They have some continuity. They have really good players there. It's just I want to see them find a direction and an identity on offense. That's not what they have right now. They just have a bunch of ancillary pieces thrown together with a young quarterback who, yes, has a lot of experience just from college, but they don't really have they don't have the Browns' offensive identity of the past. But what I think saves Stefanski is he's drafted and developed pretty well, better than some of these other coaches that we've spoken of. I mean, already from this draft class, we can question the quarterbacks and how that's going to turn out, right? Gabriel and Sanders. But they've got a good running back, Judkins. He's been really good. They've got maybe a star linebacker in the making, right? And Schlesinger, who we talked about earlier.
Really good tight end. Fannin Jr. has been great.
Really, really good tight end. I mean, their draft classes have actually been really good. It's just right now they're kind of in a transitional period offensively. So looking back on it, I probably would because they are, I think, more competent than Miami because their defense is going to keep them in every game. And they do have a better win than Miami. They did beat the Packers. That counts for anything. I think you're going to see the Browns win some games. Probably more than Miami ends up winning this year. So I wouldn't fire Stefanski. I just want to see Andrew Berry and company, like what's the direction for this franchise going into next year offensively?
Yeah, starting next year, I think 2 years removed from the like Deshaun Watson shit. Like I think that's when you kind of remove the past that's been on these guys. Like, and it'll be time to start like getting this thing rolling again, because they kind of had to tear apart their team because they had to pay Deshaun Watson so much. So now, come this year's off season, like really be aggressive, get your offensive line together, get your wide receivers together, and then you might come back with a pretty good roster. And if Dylan Gabriel can give you like competent quarterback play, which I think he can probably do, if you give him the weapons, then you might be okay.
Yep, I agree. Let's real quickly hit on the Saints, who I'll admit have been more competent than I ever expected them to be this year.
Yeah,
which is why they're ranked at the top of this sour ranking, if you will. And then we got to get into our picks. I want to update our pick standings because we haven't the last couple of weeks, and we'll make our picks, and then we'll get out of here.
Yep.
Kellen Moore, what do you think of the job he's done so far with the Saints? Do you think he's on any sort of hot seat?
No, definitely not on the hot seat. I think this team has been well coached. I'm impressed, or I guess surprised by how well Brandon Staley's defense has fared so far. The defense has looked pretty solid. Even their former first round pick, Brian Brzee, kind of coming along a little bit here in year 3, I think it is. So this team has been, I mean, there's been some positives here for the Saints for sure. I think Rattler, like I'm not on the, Rattler's a franchise quarterback train, but at the very least, you've got yourself a long-term backup for when you do find your guy. So I think it's probably from that standpoint, you've got your 2 wide receivers that you can build off of, and Shaheed and Olave. So you probably go into the draft. Your offensive line is fared decently well, and you can kind of build off of that and kind of build out your defense a little bit. I think that'll be the next step, because I think ultimately, if you're able to field a good defense come next year, like you could be competitive with Spencer Rattler. Like he's I mean, if you think about the Bills game, they hung around close multiple times this year. They've like even with the Cardinals game, they were like this close, like to Juwan Jennings making that catch over those 2 guys where Rattler, I mean, he put a dime on him in between 2 defenders there in the end zone. If he makes that catch, they win that game. Like there's been moments here, so it's not hopeless. I think if you're a Saints fan, like you suck, but like it's positive sucking.
Yes, that's what the Saints are right now. Positive sucking. They've been way more competent than I can imagine. And the thing with the Saints is like I think they're pretty well run. I like their owner. I've always thought they're like not an incompetent organization. There goes Jalen Warren. There's a flag though. Fuck. In Rattler, like the thing that I like about Kellen Moore is like he's made like the Rattler thing seems to be working. He's been good. I mean, to a certain extent, for a guy who's playing in their situation, he's been pretty good. Not like overwhelmed or anything. He seems to be getting better week by week. The thing that I wonder is like, would they consider, given that there are some wide receiver needy teams here at the trade deadline, since they have two good young receivers, would they consider trading one of those guys to acquire more ammo for the draft? I'm just spitballing ideas because I've heard those two guys as potential names that could be up at the deadline. But no, I like they do have some talent here that they can build off. Rodgers scrambling. He's going to run for it. Okay. He picked up like 5 yards. I'll take it. No, the Saints have been like way more competitive than I could have expected. The thing about this division, this will be my last point, is like you have two good drafts. You get some young players on cheap deals. You flip this roster pretty quickly, and you're really not that far away from competing in this division. That's the thing. Is like, yes, Tampa Bay is kind of way above everyone else right now in this division because of their quarterback play. But like for the Saints, you're not really that far away from like being somewhat competitive or like a borderline playoff team. You just got to have a couple good drafts, get some young players on rookie deals, and find your quarterback. So I don't think they're getting rid of Kellen Moore anytime soon. This is his first year, right? So you wouldn't pull the plug that quickly. In terms of team needs, mention a couple, and then let's move on to picks.
Yeah, team needs probably still defensive line, particularly probably on the edge in terms of pass rush. Their run defense, as far as I can remember, has been okay-ish. And then outside of that, it's just, I mean, you just got to add talent to the roster. There's not really much more you can say than that. Like, they're competent at a lot of positions, but positions where they can probably do better.
I love it. You know what the Steelers are starting to do? They're just lining
Run the
up
damn ball.
but they're lining up on 4th and 1s, and they're snapping the ball to a running back and just having Darnell Washington push them for the first down. Kind of like a tush pushing away, but like I like that. Unfortunately, on that play, they had a false start, so they have to settle for a field goal. But it did pick up the first down. They just got a penalty. It's 10-0 Pittsburgh, early second quarter. Let's move on to picks, and let me update you guys on picks because I didn't have it straight last week. So after week 4 is the last time I've updated our records. We're now in week 7. So 2 weeks have gone by since I've done any updates. Unless you guys have been keeping track of each of our picks on your own, which I find highly unlikely. Because I don't know if any of you watched to the end of the podcast. But anyway, we were both 2-4 after week 4. So we were tied, weren't doing great. I'll start with Emmy, though, because he's picking up speed here. Week 5, he went Lions minus 10.5 over the Bengals. That was a big spread. I was kind of worried about it for a minute, but the Lions did cover that. They won by 13 or 14. So he won that. And then the Cowboys played the Jets that week, and he went over 47.5. I don't remember the final score of that game, but it did go over that for sure. So he went 2-0 week 5, which brought him to an even 4-4. And then last week, he went Cardinals plus 6.5 against the Colts. Cardinals played a competitive game. They lost by 4, so he did win that. And then he went San Francisco, Tampa Bay over 47.5, and that hit pretty easily. So he's had back-to-back 2-0 weeks, and that puts him at 6-4. So he's on a heater. As for myself, week 5, I had the Eagles minus 3.5. That was looking good until the fourth quarter of that game, and then Bo Nix took it away. So I lost that bet, but I did hit the Raiders Colts under 48.5. I did end up hitting that. Final score was 40-6. So I hit that. So I went 1-1 in week 5. And then last week I had my Steelers minus 5.5 over Cleveland. That hit, so I got that right. I kind of expected to get that right. And then the Lions, I was hopeful that the Lions would maybe do what they did last year and pull out a win in Kansas City. They got off to a good start, but Kansas City is rounding into form here, so I did lose that. So I've gone 1-1 in back-to-back weeks, and I'm at 4-6 as we sit. So Emmy's 6-4, I'm 4-6. Emmy, do you have picks ready for this week? I got to look at the board here.
I do. Yeah, there are some pretty good ones to pick from here. My pick that I'm gonna go with the Patriots over the Titans. They're favored minus 7.5. It's Mike Vrabel's return to Tennessee. And I think this Patriots team, they're picking up steam. They're red hot. This Titans team doesn't have much to speak of. They could get the bump from a head coach firing, but I don't see it. I think the Patriots win big in Tennessee.
Okay. Do you have your second one ready? I got to look at the board here real fast.
Yeah. My second one. The Bucks are getting 5.5 in Detroit. I think that's a no-brainer given the fact Detroit isn't going to have Brian Branch. They're still going to be out not DJ Moore, DJ Reader. So that secondary is pretty beat up. I think Tampa Bay, they might get Bucky Irving back, but even without that, I think Baker Mayfield's just going to find a way to keep this thing close. I don't know who will win that game, but I'm betting on it being a close one. I think Bucks cover that 5.5.
Okay. I like it. As for me, okay, so that Patriots thing is interesting, and it's down to 6.5. The way I see
Oh,
it.
is it?
So if you want the 6.5, I'll give it to you.
Yeah, I'll take the 6.5. Yeah.
For me, I'm gonna go. Do you think Rams Jaguars is gonna be a high scoring game or a low scoring?
I don't think so. Rams are without Puka. Jacksonville's played like they've been playing really good
I think
defense
that's
for
gonna
most of the
be.
year.
I think that's gonna be a low scoring game.
Yeah, especially since it's in London.
I'm going to take Rams Jags under 44.5. And Vegas is telling me like they don't think it's going to be very high scoring. And then, oh fuck, ooh, what a hit.
Yeah, there's a few interesting choices here. I thought about Panthers over the Jets. They're getting one. They're getting a point and a
That's
half.
easy.
Yeah,
Panthers over the Jets, 1.5. Like
that's when I was thinking
they just
too.
got to
Yeah,
win the game, so I'll take that.
yeah. No, that's an easy one for sure. I thought about that one. But yeah, another one I thought about was Commanders Cowboys over. That total is 55.5, so that's pretty high, but that's going to be a high scoring one. So I think that could still go over.
Mm-hmm. I would agree. Okay. So we'll update the picks again next week now that I have my shit in order. Emmy and I are going to hop off. Sorry for some of the distractions, but that's what I'm dealing with. Any parting shots?
No, I made it fun tonight. Yeah.
Any parting shots?
No parting shot tonight for me.
Well, take us out then.
Yeah. That's gonna do it for tonight, guys. Hope you all enjoyed it. And if you're watching at this point, please subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. And then we'll see you later on tonight for our NBA episode. We're gonna be doing a bonus NBA preview for this season, so stay tuned for that. So peace out. Until then, see you next time.
Peace.